Room 214 was quiet, not peaceful quiet like before a storm. Cameras were already rolling. The red tally light blinked. Live. No edits. No takebacks. America was watching. The hearing room, lined with microphones, law books, and polished nameplates, felt more like a courtroom than a committee. And at that moment, it wasn't policy being judged. It was character. The door opened. Jasmine Crockett walked in, not rushed, not rattled, but deliberate. Her navy blue blazer shimmered slightly beneath the rigged overhead lights. Each step of her heels echoed like punctuation. 1, 2, then silence. In her hand, she held a single blood-red folder. Not thick, not flashy, but unmistakably heavy, the kind of weight truth often carries. Donald Trump leaned back in his chair, smirking. Elon Musk didn't look up. He scrolled through his phone, flanked by a fortress of attorneys. They looked calm, too calm. Jasmine didn't nod, didn't glance at the press. She just took her seat center chair, adjusted the mic, and looked straight into the camera, like she already knew America was waiting for what came next. Everyone in the room felt it, that quiet pressure behind the eyes, the kind that says, something's coming. There had been whispers all morning. Elon Musk's legal team had reportedly filed a last-minute injunction trying to shut this hearing down. Unconfirmed, but no one was surprised. After all, no one spends billions controlling systems just to lose control on live television. Jasmine sat unmoving. Then slowly, deliberately, she opened the red folder. One page slid forward. No one could see what it was, not yet. But it didn't matter, because the room froze. A subtle shift, shoulders straightened, staffers leaned in. Trump narrowed his eyes. Elon finally looked up. For the first time, the smugness cracked. And that's when it hit them. This wasn't just a hearing. This wasn't in politics as usual. This was about to become very real. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't need to. Jasmine reached into the folder and pulled out a single photograph. She didn't hold it up. She didn't explain. She simply slid it across the table. Face down, then paused. A few seconds passed. You could hear someone in the back row inhale sharply. Then she said it. If this had stayed buried, my mother would be dead. Not a gasp, not a murmur. Silence. The kind of silence that wraps around your spine and squeezes. Trump tilted his head. Elon didn't blink. The seal of the Oversight Committee gleamed behind Jasmine's shoulder, gold sharp, and suddenly very, very real. Because in just one sentence, Jasmine Crockett had done something no one expected. She made America stop breathing. Elon Musk leaned forward. Finally, his voice calm, measured, like he was explaining a new product launch, not defending a system tied to death. Let me be clear, he began. The ventilator allocation system created by my team wasn't political. It was mathematical, based on survivability, based on output. He looked directly at the committee. No emotion, no apology, only numbers. We optimized resources to save the most lives possible. It was logic, not personal. Some nodded, some scribbled notes. Jasmine didn't move. She slowly turned to Elon, then leaned in just enough. Her voice didn't rise. It tightened. Save the most lives or save the most profitable ones. The room shifted. Musk's jaw twitched. A lawyer scribbled something fast. He didn't read it. Jasmine continued. Your code didn't see people, Mr. Musk. It saw data points. It didn't calculate humanity. It calculated ROI. Jasmine didn't blink. She reached into the red folder again and this time pulled out a single page. She held it up just high enough for every camera to see. Then she read the names, one by one. Maria Gutierrez, school teacher. Tier 3, Calvin Brooks, Vietnam veteran. Tier 3, Shonda Ellis, grocery clerk. Tier 3, 17 names, 17 lives. Each one denied a ventilator. Why? Jasmine looked up. Because your algorithm said they weren't worth saving. She let the page rest on the desk. Low output, low ROI. That's what your system labeled them. Elon looked down. Trump crossed his arms. The gallery didn't move. Some mouths open, but no words came out. Jasmine leaned in. They weren't numbers, Mr. Musk. They were people. They paid taxes. They raised children. They served this country. And your code erased them like a typo. Jasmine placed both hands on the table. No paper this time, just her voice. Her name was Angela Crockett. She let the silence sit. My mother. On March 28, 2021, she couldn't breathe. She collapsed in our kitchen. I called 911. I followed the ambulance to Dallas County Medical. Jasmine paused. Her voice didn't crack. It sharpened. When we arrived, a nurse handed me a clipboard and said, Chest Tier 3. You'll have to wait 6 hours. No bed, no ventilator, no explanation except a machine that decided she wasn't a priority. Murmurs rippled through the gallery. Jasmine opened the folder and pulled out a photo. She slid it to the center. This is my mother, in that hallway, barely conscious, mask slipping off her face, holding a sign that read, "Still waiting." The room went still. She survived, but not because the system worked. She survived because one doctor broke the rules. A doctor who looked at her, not her data, and for that he was reprimanded, told never to override the algorithm again. No second warning. Next time he'd be escorted out. She looked up. If that man hadn't disobeyed, my mother would be died in a hallway with a clipboard instead of care. The lights dimmed, the screen behind Jasmine flickered. Then came the image of a young black woman, eyes red, hands clenched in her lap. Chloe Jackson, daughter of Marlene Jackson. Deceased Tier 3 patient. Her voice trembled, but she spoke anyway. My mom wasn't sick. Not really. She just had trouble breathing one morning. We called 911, they took her in. Chloe paused, swallowed hard. We waited and waited. She was in a wheelchair, slumped over, barely awake. I kept asking, begging someone to check her. Her breath cracked. They told me she was flagged. Tier 3, not critical. Said other patients came first. So we sat there, and then she stopped breathing. The room froze. She died in the waiting room, in the chair, while I was holding her hand, and the nurse came over and said, "I'm sorry, there's nothing we can do now." Chloe looked into the camera. They told me to wait, and she died in the wheelchair. Silence hung over the room. You could feel it. Then Trump leaned into his mic, arms folded, smirk spreading. People die every day, he muttered, casual, like he was commenting on the weather. The gallery shifted, reporters looked up. Even Elon glanced sideways. Jasmine turned toward him. Not in anger, in something colder. Not everyone, she said, has to gamble for air. Her voice didn't rise. It didn't need to. Not everyone has to sit and hope they're ranked high enough to be allowed to breathe. Trump said nothing. His smirk faded. Your money protects you, Jasmine continued. But people like Chloe's mom, they die in waiting rooms. Jasmine stood up. Not for drama, but because sitting felt too small for the truth she was about to deliver. She held up the same page from earlier. The list. Look at these names, she said. Not just names, patterns. Older, poorer, black, Latino, uninsured. She looked around the room, then back to the cameras. This system didn't just fail people. It filtered them out on purpose. It didn't see patients. It saw liabilities. Trump looked away. Elon crossed his arms. Jasmine walked toward the clerk's table. She laid the page down again, then looked straight into the camera. What if someone you love is already on that list? She let it hang, long enough to land like a punch. And no one told you. Silence, wider than the room, heavier than words. Jasmine opened the black binder. Not red this time, black, marked confidential agreement. She held it up, then placed it flat on the table. This, she said, is the contract that made everything you've heard possible. The screen behind her lit up, a scanned page. Bold title, Strategic Partnership Agreement between Musk Medical Foundation and Tiered Hospital Holdings. Cameras zoomed. Reporters leaned forward. It was signed 4 weeks before the ventilator shortage began. Clause 9. 4. She continued flipping to the marked tab grants the foundation the right to redirect any medical device. She paused, then read it out loud. Based on real-time regional economic optimization models, redistribute based on economic regions. The gallery gasped. Whispers exploded. Even Elon shifted in his seat. Jasmine didn't flinch. In plain English, if you lived in a poor zip code, you got less help. They didn't send ventilators where they were needed. They sent them where the money lived. This isn't triage. This is targeted neglect. The screen behind Jasmine changed again. This time a screenshot. Dark mode, Slack, timestamped, March 27, 2021. Subject emergency ventilator request. Patient Angela Crockett, Congresswoman's mother. Jasmine took a breath, then read the message aloud. If she wants a ventilator, tell her to pay better. Gasps, real ones. Someone in the gallery said Jesus. Another closed their laptop slowly. Jasmine looked up. That wasn't a joke. That wasn't a mistake. That was culture. She turned to Elon. He didn't move. This message wasn't from a random intern. It came from a decision maker, someone with authority and zero humanity. She let that settle, then added, "You didn't just design a system, Mr. Musk. You built a mindset where a price tag determines who gets to breathe." Jasmine paused. "I want to show you what low priority looks like." The screen changed a hallway camera still. Timestamped, blurry, but enough. An elderly man, head slumped to one side, oxygen mask half hanging. His name was Sergeant Daniel Jenkins. 2 tours in Iraq, Bronze Star recipient. He walked into the ER on his own 2 feet. He left in a body bag. A pause. There were 3 available ventilators at the time, but he was flagged low output, high maintenance. Translation: he was too old and too expensive. Gasps. Someone in the back wiped a tear. Jasmine stared straight ahead. "We draped him in a flag when he died, but we couldn't spare a machine to keep him alive. This is what happens when numbers matter more than names." By the time Jasmine finished her sentence, Twitter was on fire. Hashtag let them breathe, #IamTear, hashtag ventilators for all 3 hashtags, trending globally within 22 minutes. CNN cut to the clip. Fox News replayed it 4 times. MSNBC ran it live until the control room itself froze in silence. In living rooms across America, veterans wept. Nurses stopped mid-shift. People turned off the game and turned on the hearing. A grandmother in Ohio posted, "I was flagged Tier 3 last year. Today I just found out what that really means." A young man in Texas tweeted, "My dad didn't get a ventilator. Musk's AI said he had low long-term utility. Now I know what they meant. The rage wasn't partisan anymore. It was personal, and it was loud." Outside Capitol Hill, a crowd gathered. People held signs. "Breathing is not a business model. I am not your ROI." CNN looped Jasmine's words for 6 hours straight. Not everyone has to gamble for air. Each replay hit harder. Every pause felt heavier. It wasn't just a soundbite, it became a reckoning. Fox News, they cut the feed, called it partisan theater, then switched to a panel about gas prices. But that only made it worse. People flooded social media. Why are they hiding this? What are they afraid? Well, here are clips of the hearing spread like wildfire on Facebook, TikTok, YouTube. One video, a close-up of Jasmine's face as she said, "He died on the floor because he wasn't profitable enough." Hit 14 million views in 9 hours. Meanwhile, conservative networks scrambled. Some anchors hesitated, staring off camera as if someone was yelling in their earpiece. But America was already watching, and they weren't blinking. It started with one sign, held by a man in a wheelchair, his military jacket still bearing the faded patches of Afghanistan and Iraq. It read, "Tell them I served." Ask if that was enough. People stopped, filmed, cried. By noon, there were thousands, veterans, nurses, students, mothers holding photos of the ones who didn't make it, sons holding signs for the fathers who were deemed non-essential. There were no party flags, no campaign buttons, only grief, only fury, only truth. The Capitol steps were no longer just marble, they were a memorial. Some held candles, others wore surgical masks with Tier 3 written in red marker across them. "We are not ROI. Dignity is not a cost center. Who gets to decide who lives?" This wasn't a protest. It was a reckoning, and it was louder than Congress. Jasmine stood at the microphone, her voice low, clear, and lethal. She held up a contract redacted in parts, but one name was bold. "Mr. Musk, did you sign this?" The room fell silent. Even the camera stopped moving. Elon blinked, shifted in his seat. I did," gasps. Even some Republicans covered their mouths. Jasmine turned the document to the Committee Clause 11. "In circumstances of limited resources, prioritize return on investment over long-term life expectancy." She didn't need to say more. The sentence had already gone viral. "So you didn't just build the system," Jasmine said. "You told it who to let die." The moment Elon said "I did," Donald Trump stood up so fast his chair screeched. His face turned red, not from embarrassment, but from rage. He slammed his fist on the desk. "Cut the feed," the words echoed through the marble walls. Producers in the back panicked, but the red light on the camera stayed on, still live, still broadcasting to millions. One CNN anchor whispered on air, "We're staying with this story. America deserves to see this." Trump shouted again, his voice cracking, "I said cut the damn feed," but no one moved. Jasmine stood still, eyes locked on Trump. "You can't turn off the truth," she said. "Not anymore." Just when the room thought it had seen it all, Jasmine reached into her red folder and pulled out one last USB drive. "I want this entered into the record," she said. A staffer plugged it in. On the screen, a Zoom call, dated 2 weeks before the hearing. In the video, an executive from Musk Medical relaxed sipping coffee. He laughed, then said, "Low-income patients, they're not shareholders." The audio hit like a bullet. There were no gasps, just silence. Senators stared straight ahead. Even the most seasoned lobbyists had no spin left. Jasmine didn't smile. She didn't blink, and that she said is why my mother almost died. The next morning, the Senate floor was packed. No shouting, no grandstanding. Just a quiet tension that felt like history. The bill was called the Emergency Public Medical Access Act. The summary was simple. No hospital, public or private, may deny life-saving care based on economic output. No human being is low ROI. Not anymore. C-SPAN cameras zoomed in as votes were cast. Booker, yes. Cruz, yes. Warren, yes. Even those who once scoffed at Jasmine now whispered her name with respect. The final tally, 87-13, bipartisan, unanimous in spirit. Outside, the crowd erupted. Chants echoed through Capitol Hill. "Let them breathe. We are not your metrics. No more tears." Inside, Jasmine Crockett stood, motionless, eyes glistening not with victory, but with something deeper. Vindication, dignity, justice. That night, Jasmine Crockett walked into her small Texas home. No cameras, no lights, just quiet. Her mother was sitting on the couch wrapped in a blanket, sipping tea. She looked up. "You look tired," her mother said softly. Jasmine smiled, sat beside her, resting her head gently on her mother's shoulder. They didn't speak for a while. They didn't need to. The TV in the corner was still on. A breaking news banner slid across the screen. "Breath is no longer for sale." Jasmine closed her eyes. For once, it wasn't a headline built on fear. It was peace, earned peace. For her mother, for Chloe, for Jenkins, for all of them. Standing alone at the Capitol steps, Jasmine faced the cameras one last time. No podium, no prepared speech. Just her voice, calm, clear, and real. If you've ever seen someone you love be told they're not worth saving, tell that story. Because sometimes justice doesn't shout, it breathes. Then she stepped down. No applause, no music. Only the sound of wind sweeping through the marble steps, carrying her words across a healing nation. Sometimes the systems we build to protect us end up protecting power instead of people. And the loudest injustice isn't always the one that screams, it's the one that quietly decides who lives and who doesn't. Jasmine's story teaches us this. Silence helps the algorithm, but truth helps people breathe. So if you have a voice, use it. If you've lived through injustice, tell it. Because your story might be the air someone else is gasping for. If this story moved you, if it made you think, cry, or just pause to breathe, don't let it end here. Subscribe for more stories that expose what others hide. Stories that speak truth, protect dignity, and fight for breath. This isn't just content. It's a movement, and we need you.